a breath after the energy of and flow of that space. Hi, Marguerite, thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you.
We just ended with your piece, but I have questions for everyone that maybe are integrated. So I'll start with some opening questions. First, perhaps if you'd introduce yourself, your piece, and perhaps what brought you to that piece.
My name's Josh Weisbach. My piece was explant implant, and I was having my pacemaker replaced, so I decided to make a film.
Hi, I'm Sam Taffel. I'm the co-director, along with Jillian Waldo, of Learning from Las Vegas, and it's a long story. That's how we got there.
Margarita?
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't sure. So I'm Margarita. I directed God in Half, and I guess I was surprised one day to find out that my doctor from when I was 12 remembered me, and I decided to make a film about that and our relationship and memory.
Had he reached out to you? Had you reached out to him?
No, I saw him at a sort of like Zoom conference during COVID, and I submitted a question, and he was like, "Oh, hi, Margarita," and I was like, "Oh, wow."
Interesting. A moment of reconnection.
Yeah.
I have questions that I think are full program based, but maybe I'll just start by saying that when we were thinking of titles for this program and thinking about success, I had been thinking about the many connotations or the roots of that word, and that what comes after may or may not be a happy outcome, which is what is implied by one meaning of success, but it really fully embraces the idea of succeeding and what continues, regardless of it being good or bad. And also thinking about your titles, they're very poignant, and all of the titles in these pieces. And I've resisted asking this of people thus far, but I would like to think about. I had been thinking about scrape quite a bit, but explant implant is a really interesting juncture or breaking point as you are inserting yourself so much into the frame, obviously, but something that is also being inserted. Can you speak a bit about where you were drawing inspiration, also in crafting this piece? And I'll be asking people sort of individually within that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the title is a bit literal in the sense that I was going through this process of having one old pacemaker taken out, so explanted, and then a new one implanted. I've made some other heart-related films, one that was also single frame animation, but the structure was a little different, so I was interested in continuing to explore that. But really just wanted to make a document of that experience, and wasn't sure if it would work. I've tried to make some other, or at least one other film in the hospital after my first pacemaker, but there were just too many health complications after that first surgery to really be successful. But as long as the leads into your heart are still strong and working, the replacement pacemaker surgery is, you don't even spend the night. I mean, it's really in and out. And so it's a very quick process. So, I mean, while it was challenging to continue filming coming out of surgery, it was kind of like this moment of, if I don't do this, this movie's not being made. But, in terms of the title, yeah, I mean, that's something that came to me before I even did the filming, and just really wanted to reference that process, but kind of like that simultaneous process, because it's it's almost like, I think about it a lot as like taking my car into the shop, because it wasn't, in that moment, it wasn't about fixing something that was wrong with my health, even though obviously if my old pacemaker stopped working, that would have medical repercussions, but really it was just about like getting a new model. So
I'll mention that the best part of programming and succeeding in programming is finding getting to see something big. That's what I want to see. But I noticed more closely this time how much new life you show as part of this film. That there's so much infancy referenced, or that there's an idea of someone else there, new, approaching, or advertisements for that idea. It was a really beautiful connection point, and it became larger this time for me. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I really wanted to have some kind of representation of the surgical time and space. I didn't really know what it was going to be, but it was actually a suggestion from my father, and those were all photos he took of me soon after my birth. I had a lot of medical interventions within the first 6 months of my life, and those photos I think were from the first week of life. So knowing that I'm documenting this kind of ongoing relationship with surgery and my heart, I liked the idea of having images that represented the start and then kind of where I was now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe most literally, what was learned here and learning from, and maybe I'll refocus this question away from titles and position it more in that there was so much interesting visibility of the artists within these films. Obviously, you are all very present. You give us a behind the scenes moment, many moments that become the film in a lot of ways. And I'm curious about where you had started and where you ended.
Yeah. That's a great question. Thanks.
Sure.
It really began, out of just a real friendship and appreciation between Jillian and I, studying together and teaching together, and just really finding that our worldviews were fundamentally shared. They're very similar. But it really came about, I think, kind of sometimes in the way that collaborations do, rather playfully and humorously, because I had gone to Las Vegas with a friend. I'd never been before. It was just really, I bought a very, very cheap ticket from Milwaukee and got there on Christmas Day. And I got back and I told Jillian about, she was like, "How's Vegas?" And I said, "Oh, I had a great time. We went to, what was it? We went outside and we hiked and we went to the casinos and then I went to this place, Little Darlings. It's like a strip club, as I was waiting for my plane, and I fell in love with a dancer." And she was like, "That's so funny. We should make a movie about Vegas together." I was like, "Okay, if that's how this starts, great." And then Jillian is very focused on architecture. I'm very focused on she really is interested in the archive architecture. That's a big part of her practice. My practice is performance. It's appropriated media. It's sort of like acting things out. And so we were trying to figure out, how do we, despite our sort of interests being very similar, how do we bridge these two things together? And so there was many elements of learning, one of which was how do we adapt? Because that was the goal, was to adapt this text. How do you adapt it? It was written in 1968, published in 1972. How do you adapt it for a contemporary audience when the landscape is constantly changing? It's much unlike any other city in America, in which I think people sometimes go to a place and they got to come accustomed to it, and then they leave and they come back a few years later and they're like, "Oh, this is still here, that's gone." It feels a little bit different. Vegas is not like that. It's always radically shifting. And so the impression that we had of the text, there was sort of this feeling of an impossibility in terms of trying to translate it on screen. And so that I think kind of influenced us in this way, in terms of not just playing with the text, but playing with form and playing parts, and then playing versions of ourselves and versions of the writers, in a way, just kind of acknowledging, again, that there was a real sort of fabrication and construction to all of this.
Many artifices. Yeah. I think this is something that joins these particular films, that there's something behind the scene that we will be seeing sort of inappropriately, or like something that you're not allowed to see necessarily. So, Margarita, I think that finding a place to revisit the past in the rubble is very exciting. It's a strange wish that so many have, and to manufacture that circumstance for yourself is incredible. Would you speak a bit about how the project developed?
Hmm. It's actually funny that you say that, because I was expecting the doctor to be very excited to go back to that space where he had lived. I mean, where he had worked and effectively lived for so many years of his life, as were some of the nurses that I talked to. And so when we got to the set the first day, at some point I was trying to just have something to talk about with him. And I was like, "So are you excited to be here?" And he couldn't care less. He was like, "No, this is just a space." So it was interesting that he didn't have this sort of fetish that, we all had. Um, but it was very hard to get that space because it was really not um, like, it didn't have conditions. I don't know how to say this in English. Sorry. Like, it didn't. It was not safe, basically. And other people had tried to film there other things, like they were trying to adapt the space to be something else because it's just a huge old building. But in our case, the space was really a character. And if we couldn't film there, we wouldn't film anywhere else. We wouldn't make the film. So it was a hard process. And I need to thank my producers for that. And yeah, I visited it, and it was just crazy to see all the like, I didn't run around a lot. Like, some of the rooms were very evocative to me of the times that I had to be what's the word, I think, committed. And so like the room where I used to organize karaoke nights, that I think you can see in the film too. Yeah. And so there was that relationship with the space to me that, for instance, to the doctor was really not something. For him, it's more about the people. And I learned that it seems like he pretty much remembers every single patient that he's ever had, which is amazing.
I have more questions, but I'll wait. We have time. Let's
Mhm.
ask the audience, please. If anyone has a question.
Margarita, were you aware of the irony that this is a situation where the patient lived and the hospital died?
Oh my God, no, I hadn't thought of that. That's a beautiful thought. Yes, I mean, one thing that we didn't focus too much on is that some patients died in that hospital too. And that's something that the doctor talked a little bit about off camera too. Even one of the kids in the party scene, most of them were sick and going through treatment. And one of the kids, after the film, like maybe a year after, died too. So I guess I wasn't thinking about that, because I was also thinking about the people who are dying, but I didn't. So yes, that's a beautiful thought. Thank you.
I think, oh, yeah.
Hello. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit, each of you, about your formal choices and how did you end up, making the film that you made eventually? Because they're all very formally bold. So
Well, thank you for that question. We what decisions did we make and how do we make them? We knew that we wanted to be in Las Vegas. We knew we had to do that. We didn't want to recreate the city. We wanted to go there. We wanted to try and translate and adapt the concepts of Robert Venturi and Denise Scott Brown and Stephen Eisenhower as much as possible. We also knew that there was going to be elements of reenactment and recreation. But also there was, genuine sort of like organic developments that took place during the development of the making of the film. I mean, it took 3 years to make this movie. It took 2 trips to Vegas, and there were things that we had to kind of change radically as we went about. And it's amazing how sometimes material concerns really affect the formal structure of your film. Like, we were very lucky enough to get this actually maybe kind of tied to both of yours. We got a medical document reader, which allowed us to just zoom in to the nth degree. So it almost has that kind of that texture of going into the library and looking at microfilm, So when we got this, me specifically, I was so obsessed with this, and it changed the way that I looked at the book literally, rather than thinking of the book as a series of texts or words. It became this whole thing of how does the eye just look at all of the different graphs, all of the different charts? Because really, it's a very artfully made book, Learning from Las Vegas, which if you haven't read it, I highly recommend you read it. This really is, this book is what is handed to every single undergraduate or first year at an architecture program, master's, PhD, or even just a regular class at a university. So that camera really allowed for new ways of kind of looking at it and playing with the material. And also, I'll just say one other thing was Jillian and I have very different ways of working with film, and Jillian is, I love the way she approaches the film camera. She really looks at it almost like living photographs. She composes things beautifully. She can look at a building, and really just create this, I think, indelible image that lasts. But she also is she times it. She's she knows when to stop. And I'm the complete opposite. When I use film, I'm constantly moving the camera. I never want to stop looking. And to me, the frame is constantly shifting. And then also I'm the second we had a camera that could run for 12 minutes, I was let's do 10, 12-minute takes. Jay was no, please, no, God, no. So sometimes you hear fights in the film about composition, about duration. And these, I would, just to give some clue as to what we're saying about maybe collaboration or whatnot, these are maybe the truest arguments that we are having in the movie. And then, I could go on and on, but I will hold off.
With my film, I think I mentioned earlier, I was interested in continuing with the single frame form. So I kept that to a very simple structure of just did 40 frames, single frame, and then I did a short burst of real time and just kind of continued that structure. It wasn't fully in camera edit. There were frames and things I shortened, but that was really just in terms of a strategy when I was filming, going to the hospital. In the hospital, that was really my plan. I think formally putting myself in there, my body, you see the scar before and after the surgery, those are formal choices that were more challenging for me, not something I do a lot in my practice. And then I think that, the one aspect that I had no real plan for or prediction was recording the audio. And obviously the Boldex camera became a big kind of issue in the hospital. Many nurses asking, that single frame noise of the Bolex is very loud, and so that drew a lot of attention. Curtains were moved, people worrying about privacy, stuff like that. And the whole time I'm thinking, like, everyone has multiple cameras and recorders in their pockets on an iPhone. No one would have any clue, and I'm just here like doing single frame. But obviously that really shaped the soundscape in a way that I was not anticipating, or even the content of the film. I really, I went into filming kind of like guerrilla style. Didn't ask for permission, just started doing it, and so that definitely comes across as well. But I guess, with that said, like, consent is a part of it, but not the main piece. Yeah.
The hospital machines are noisy, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, the combination of the two, or like your inclusion of that mixed in with the camera sound is wonderful. Yeah. Margarita, do you have something to add?
Yeah. So I didn't know much of what was going to come out of the conversations with the doctor and how we were going to use them, because I decided I wouldn't talk to him until we met for filming. So it was very unexpected, and something, if I were to go back, I would probably do differently. I would have talked to him. I thought I would like to capture the weirdness of or the awkwardness of our first encounter. So so I didn't really know. I couldn't prepare much in terms of the hospital. I could, and I knew that it was going to be those sort of static shots of the rumble, and especially to sort of oppose or feel the difference when we have the only part of the film where you have camera movements, which is the party scene. I wanted to have that that formal distinction, because that's a more oniric moment, and more fictional, if you want, even though the whole thing is a little fictional. One thing I was very much resistant to from the beginning was the voice over. I wanted to use just our dialogues. I don't know. I had some sort of, some sort of prejudice. I felt like, oh, it's already like postcards, the static shots. And so I felt like it would be, I don't know what I felt, but I didn't want to do that. But then we edited for, I think, over a year, and I wasn't satisfied. And finally I gave in to the idea of just writing a text and reading it over the images. And we used, as you saw, very little of our dialogues. We had many hours of those, and we ended up using very few minutes. So it was a discovery in the process of editing a lot.
I'm afraid we are out of time, but I have so many more questions. I'll perhaps email you, Margarita, because I'm very curious. And thank you so much for sharing. This was a really special program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to note that we're doing a group photo outside now, with the artist out on the balcony there.